From the author of Spinsterella, A Strange and Unusual Romance, comes Spellbound, a darker shade of black. Get Spellbound this Halloween in paperback and ebook at online booksellers everywhere. When it comes down to this movie, The Birth of a Nation, you have too many of these Afro-American Negroes who are practicing fuzzy math. And according to their fuzzy math, The Birth of a Nation will eventually be a hit or will in some way make its money back. Now, as a guy who has studied the entertainment industry ever since he was 7 years old and has studied the box office for over 20 years, I can honestly tell you again that The Birth of a Nation is a certified flop. When a film opens in sixth place at $6 million on over 2,700 screens, that, by any studio executive's mathematics, is called a flop. However, the Afro-American Negro, with his fuzzy math, is going to tell you that this movie will be a hit or it will recoup its costs. And that's just not possible under any sort of mathematical formula presented to any logical thinking person. Because Your Birth of a Nation, yes, it cost Nate Parker $6 million. However, that same film, when it was brought up for sale by Fox Searchlight Pictures, cost them $17 million. And then they spent another $25 to $30 million on advertising costs and promotion costs. So they would have to make $50 million to break even. In contrast, the movie Dope, which came out earlier last year in the summertime, pretty much this movie cost $750,000, and this film made $18 million. So when we do the math and we follow logic, we ask the question, how is it a smaller budget independent film like Dope make $18 million and is considered profitable, but Your Birth of a Nation, which pretty much cost a studio $17 million and then opened at $6.6 million on 2,700 screens, is considered on its way to being profitable? Only in the mind of the Afro-American Negro is that logical and make any sense. Dope, which pretty much played on fewer screens, had a smaller budget, had less distribution, made $18 million in profit. However, Your Birth of a Nation, which cost the studio $17 million, another $25 million in advertising and promotion, and is pretty much opened on 2,700 screens, opens number 6 at the box office at $6.2 million, drops off almost 60 some percent in the second week, but the Afro-American Negro will consider this a movie on its way to becoming a hit. It just shows you how dysfunctional and how backwards this Afro-American Negro is, and how his math all of a sudden becomes fuzzy whenever you present this Negro with logic and reason. Whenever you present the Negro with a factual statement regarding something that he likes, such as this Birth of a Nation movie, he comes at you with these ridiculous arguments saying that, oh, the movie is going to be a hit, it's an indie film. But wait a minute, Dope was an indie film. And many of you Afro-American Negroes who talk about Birth of a Nation didn't go see Dope, but Dope made more money than Your Birth of a Nation. But the Afro-American Negro will sit there and tell you that this is a hit when the numbers just don't bear that out. When we look at the numbers on The Birth of a Nation, it tells the truth about the Afro-American Negro. For all the statements he makes about wanting to see these type of films and making this so-called stand, we see the truth about this Afro-American Negro as it relates to the arts. Whenever it's time for the Negro to go outside and spend money on these types of projects, the Afro-American Negro disappears. This is something I know from personal experience over the last couple of years being a publisher of positive black fiction. Because I know from personal experience that whenever you present this Afro-American Negro with this type of material such as Birth of a Nation, he's not the one who's going to pop up at any sort of venue to go see it. He's not going to put any money on it, but then he'll go out and then try to deflect, saying that, oh, it was the black feminist who destroyed Birth of a Nation's chances at the box office. That's not the case at all. Whenever it comes down to this Afro-American Negro, he is the one who primarily is the one who talks a talk, but never walks the walk. And because he does not walk the walk, this is why many projects which feature positive and balanced images of African Americans often never get any sort of profile in the mainstream media. I mean, for example, with Dope. This was one of the best films of the year for 2015. However, your Afro American Negroes in the mainstream media, such as those in the NAACP, did not give this film any sort of credence or credibility outside of one NAACP Image Award nomination, and most of black media pretty much ignored this film. Yet they want to talk about the Birth of a Nation being a hit, even though it has lost money. And then it shows, how backwards these Negroes are. Because these Negroes sit here and, again, they talk a talk, but they don't walk the walk whenever this type of material is presented to the Negro. He is the last in line. And then he gets upset and says that there's a conspiracy to make this movie a flop. There are movie theaters that aren't making tickets that say Birth of a Nation, when all of that really doesn't make any sense. Why would producers go out of their way to spend an enormous amount of money, $17 million, on a film to make a statement to lose money on said film? That makes absolutely no sense, because people in the film business are not in the business to lose money. They don't have money to lose. All those producers and those executives, they don't want to lose their money, their reputations, and their careers on one film. And why would they want to risk all that on one film? But according to the Negro, there's a plan and a conspiracy to prevent black people from seeing films like Birth of a Nation. No, that's not the case at all. The Negro never showed up for Birth of a Nation. If all these black men who were complaining about all these black feminists took themselves to the theaters on October 7th, Birth of a Nation might have opened at the same level as Boo! A Madea Halloween. Unfortunately, many of these Afro-American Negro keyboard warriors were pretty much sitting out Birth of a Nation in the same way the black feminists sat out Birth of a Nation. But these same guys will come here and tell you that Birth of a Nation now is a hit, even though it performed poorly on more screens than Dope did. And Dope had a small limited release on a handful of screens, yet this film that cost $750,000 went out here and made $18 million over the course of its run. But the Afro-American Negro will tell you Birth of a Nation, which cost almost 10 times as much as Dope, and had the higher distribution of theaters per ratio at 2,700 screens, and it had a $25 million promotion and publication budget. This movie is supposed to be a hit, even though it opened at number 6 at $6.2 million, and then dropped off even further after that. And that there's some conspiracy by white people to keep black people from seeing the black image that he doesn't want to see himself. And this is what the whole Birth of a Nation and Boo! A Madea Halloween pretty much made the statement on. This Afro-American Negro is the one who talks the talk but doesn't walk the walk when it's time to see those images. And then he goes out here and tries to complain and then tries to blame others for the movies he says he wants not performing well. And it's all their fault, when actually it is his fault, because he's the one who doesn't go out and put his money where his mouth is. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.